And consequently, there was a great deal of courage and smarts, and you're right. There were a lot of very wonderful people who helped to build the unions, and in fact were the heads of many unions. Like Walter Reuther was not a communist; he was a socialist, however.
Right.
So I'm quite aware of what you just have suggested.
Well, how long did you do this, Vic? From how long were you in this factory organizing? You went into the Merchant Marine in the war, didn't you?
Well, yeah. What happened was that by 1943, the union was well established in this factory. In the spring of 1943, I had not been drafted because I was married and I was working in a war plant. We were making, at that time, bomb fuses.
And this was also in Long Island City?
Yeah, the same factory.
Right.
But at this point, I felt that I should get into this war against Hitler. So I joined the Merchant Marine, which was part of the armed forces, but it was a very unique part of the armed forces. The Merchant Marine was run by the National Maritime Union.
Right.
I thought that was, boy, that's the place for me.
Yeah.
Of course, it was still it was a dangerous operation.
Very.
But I was very fortunate. Except for an occasional depth charge pounding against the hull while I was down in the engine room, but I was in the Merchant Marine for 3 years during the war.
Were you on the run to Russia?
No, the Murmansk run.
Murmansk run.
You never knew where you were going to go.
Yeah.
So I went several different places, England, the Mediterranean, Africa, and so on. But you never knew. So I never did go on that Murmansk run. Do I have a moment to tell a story about the Murmansk run?
Oh, I want to hear that, about the hams, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great story. Go ahead, tell us.
I have a friend who was on the Murmansk run, and they were making their way...
Now, just let me say, Murmansk is in the north of Russia.
Yeah.
And when the Americans sent supplies to Russia, they went up north into the Arctic to deliver them, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And
you know what, Richard, it's interesting. I keep on forgetting to tell these very important facts that you're supplying. In order to get to Murmansk, which was way up north in the Arctic Circle, you had to go past Norway, which was German occupied.
Right.
And from Norway, the Germans kept on sending out torpedo planes and submarines. And it was really a very dangerous trip.
Yes.
The losses were always phenomenal.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was on that run, and they were torpedoed. And they were in their lifeboats. A couple of men had been lost, but the rest got into lifeboats. And they were in their lifeboats, and after the ship sank, canned hams started to come up to the surface. So they thought this was great, and they started to row over and begin to collect canned hams. But then after a while, the German submarine that had sunk them came up. And they were very, very worried because there had been some terrible stories about German submarines killing the merchant seamen. But this time, the German captain came out on the bridge, and he spoke to them in English, came up real close, and he said, those hams you are collecting, hand them over.
Yeah.
And they took away all the hams.
Yeah.
But for each canned ham that they took away, they gave them a bottle of French cognac. Whereupon my friend Jack McCusker said, we were looking for more canned hams to hand them so we could get more cognac. And when they had finished that transaction, this very polite German captain said, if you head a certain direction, you'll come to Novaya Zemlya, an island where you'll be able to, from which you'll be able to be rescued. And then the German submarine went down under to look for more boats to sink. I should call them ships, not boats.
Yeah.
And of course, the ones in these lifeboats were finally picked up by another ship. Mm-hmm. So that's my favorite story about.
There are a lot of good stories about the war. Yeah, yeah. So you were in the Merchant Marine through the war.
And then I went back into the factory.
And then you went back to the factory, right?
And what I would do is I was
This would have been 1946, 1945? Yeah.
Actually, 1946, yeah.
And at that time, you were 30 years old, right? Roughly?
I was approaching my 30th birthday.
Right,
yeah.
right, okay.
And what happened was that I was the shop chairman, and I was the president of the local, which had all of the shops in the local. And I was busy with handling grievances in the shop. 600 workers, there's really an awful lot of grievance handling there. But also I would go out, and the union would pay me to go out on certain campaigns, certain organizing campaigns. And that's the way I did it until, and now I'm going to tell about something that you already spoke about before. By 1956, well, I should say in 1956, something very important happened. There was a 20th Communist Party Congress of the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm. Vic, may I interrupt? We have 3 minutes left. Let's do another half hour and talk about this. You know, I want to get in, you know, because this is an important story.
Okay,
all right?
Yeah,
let's do another half hour, and we'll talk about what happened in 1956. Because in the first program, I just want to be sure to get in the fact that some of the work you've done here in documentary movies. You know, you did The Empty Chair, which won awards and things like that, and you're now working on a documentary. So would you just tell us about that, and then we're going to do another half hour and continue, okay?
Well, I became a volunteer at LTV about 19 years ago, I guess it was.
Yeah.
And I came here and learned how to do a studio shoot, learned how to use a camera, and learned how to edit. And I became pretty good at covering stories in the Hamptons.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff has been shown on LTV. And I learned enough so that I finally became a skilled amateur documentary filmmaker. And I made a documentary film in 1998 called The History of East Hampton, from the Ice Age to the...
Right, I remember it, yeah.
From the Ice Age to 1998.
Right.
It was an hour program, and it was shown in October of 1998 in connection with the 350th anniversary celebration. Incidentally, it had been financed by the 350th anniversary committee. Then I felt pretty good about myself. I felt I could handle this stuff. And I started to do one on something that was close to my heart and my sensibilities. I did one on the death penalty.
That was marvelous.
Called The Empty Chair.
The Empty Chair, yeah.
And as you said, it did win the 2006 Thurgood Marshall Award for broadcast journalism. And then after that, we did another one on forgiveness. Also had to do with the death penalty, but how two different families, each of whom lost a loved one to murder, chose the road of forgiveness rather than seeking the death penalty.
Rather than revenge, yeah.
And we just finished one. It's just finished. It's going to be shown on November 22nd at the Bay Street Theater on drug addiction.
Okay.
And it's called The Last Fix.
We're in the last 30 seconds, so all right, so you just say that again quickly. November 22nd at Bay Street, you're showing your documentary on drug addiction. Okay.
That's
all right, we're going to go into another half hour now and return to that. Okay, Vic Teisch is giving us the great pleasure and interest of reciting his experiences as a younger man, and we're going to do another half hour. We're going to record it now, and hopefully they can be broadcast together.
Thank you.